Hi, good afternoon. I'm part of the FK regulatory working groups. Well, I think we have to keep in mind that actually the EFSA opinion related to the lack of characterization of probiotic strains were all related to Article 13.1. And the reason is not that the industry doesn't have the data, it's just because when actually the industry was asked to provide published data to member states forwarded that data to Commission and the Commission to EFSA, so we didn't have actually direct discussion with EFSA. We were asked to provide published scientific data, and in most of the cases actually characterization data is not published. So when you have strains which are cleared from proper characterization, actually that's just by luck, because this characterization data is in the scientific publication on the health benefits. But otherwise, that's why actually the culture industry is not concerned about the topic related to characterization data. We have now clarification from EFSA on which data we have to provide. And I mean, this guidance was actually published by EFSA after the publication of the first batch. But we have this data. So now we know that the Commission is working on a procedure to actually allow the industry to submit this data, which was not submitted in the first place. So that's really why we are not focusing on this today.
Yeah, I should just confirm, I don't think, to answer directly to your question, that characterization and identification today is a problem. The technology is there. We have the QPS regulation in Europe that decides whether a bacterium is safe when it belongs to a certain category of species. It is very easy to identify a microorganism based on 16S RNA sequences and a number of additional tests, so that's not a problem. The real characterization comes to the fact that you must be able to show that one bacteria which is in the product is also the same bacteria that is used in the clinical trial or that you used in the animal preparation studies. And that is done not through identification but through the typing. And there is a number of techniques available, 3 or 4, which are used in medicine actually to detect strains which spread in the hospital or whatever. And these techniques can be used also on food organisms without any problem. And if you combine these tests, then you have almost sure the proof in your hand that we are talking about one and the same microorganism. So these techniques are available, and indeed they are performed, as was suggested, in some reference centers. So if you don't have the in-house technology in the companies, I think it's very easy to get them from a public service like PCCM in Belgium, like DSMZ in Germany, or ATCC in the US. So these services exist, and I think it should be very easy to do them. But what you do not serve with this kind of typing, is genetic typing, is what concerns the functionality of your strain. So that is a different issue, and that is virtually impossible today. So you cannot really show, even through complete sequencing, that a strain has some particular functionality and that it will still have the same functionality within 5 years or 10 years from now. So even if you would do a complete sequencing with an interval of, let's say, 2 to 3 years, you probably will find some mutations, some point mutations. Whether these point mutations influence the functionality of a strain is, even with the knowledge today, not possible to determine. So can we go until the end? No. Can we go far? Yes. But how far we should go is just upon how much money, again, you want to spend on this typing.
Okay.
May I just get a short comment? I completely agree, but you still oversimplify this. I mean, there's a warning for the future. Put in money, and just that we should have research in this area of typing methods is advancing all the time. And some of these research centers in other parts of the world are putting a lot of money into that to help their industry. So I think we should mention that, in my view, to be honest, that we must follow this field. And that's why I mentioned this meeting in Gothenburg last year, because I think this will escalate here, because some strains are very valuable, but there are very many data coming up now in this group of organisms, which I have been evaluating for different companies. So that we really have to scientists have to work with type culture collection center, molecular, and then, as you said, industry must know that this is special expertise which should be appreciated as real special technology, which we have to help. The type culture collection centers don't have a lot of money these days, not in Europe at least, as I see it.
I would like to repeat the question on the curative direction, if we could go to that direction. I was very happy to hear Gert saying that diarrhea should not be regarded as a disease, and I think we would need more statements like that, and then we would have to make the Commission to understand it, and all the national authorities in Europe to understand it, because that's not the case today, I'm afraid.
Well, I said it because earlier we heard that irritable bowel syndrome is considered a condition and not a disease. Well, if IBS is not a disease, then I think diarrhea is not a disease. I do recognize that when you have a severe diarrhea with Clostridium difficile, then you have to be admitted to the intensive care and be given intravenous vancomycin. So it's not something to generalize or to think lightly about. But as such, I think, for instance, antibiotic-associated diarrhea is not what should be termed a disease. It's a temporary condition.
But now it is possible to have the authorities to recognize that some conditions are not diseases, but they really need these consensus statements that they can look at and then make.
And the problem is caused by drawing a strict line between health and disease, and saying, well, it's healthy, then it's regulation A, and when there's disease, it's regulation B. And there are conditions who cross that border. I think we have to realize that.
I don't know if it could be a suggestion or not, but because as one of the experts of the Italian Ministry of Health, I have to evaluate food and food supplement. And we realize that as most of the data, the positive clinical data that have been accumulated in the past, deals with the with pathological situation. And now we have this regulation that is devoted only to healthy people or otherwise healthy. Probably it's time for some companies to think also to a special section of the market. That is the clinical nutrition and food for special medical purposes. Because there is a gray area in between the drugs, the food with the health claim, and this is in the middle. So it is for the food supplement, this is something to think about. There are different legislation, because for this area there are national legislation. But this could be an area in which some of the previous studies could be used.